Am I the a-hole for distancing myself from my daughter after she took her mother's side? I'm a 50-year-old male and I found out that my wife, who's 49, of 20 plus years, was having an affair. I was completely hurt over this and have started divorce proceedings. Obviously, this has been hard on our 4 children, but I cannot spend the rest of my life with someone I can't trust. Before we got married, my wife's family had money and demanded I sign a prenup. I had no problem, but since then, the family money has been lost due to bad investments and lawsuits. My family was a stay-at-home mother for the majority of our marriage. Our youngest child is 19, and because of the prenup, she can't get alimony. In short, my wife will be screwed. So far it sounds like she's getting what she deserves. The only thing we owned together was our house, and while it is paid off, my wife won't be able to afford the upkeep or HOA fees, so she will effectively be homeless. I have no intention of giving her any type of support for any reason. Since serving my wife divorce papers, I have refused direct contact, as my lawyer has advised, but she's now playing dirty by getting the children involved. We have 2 boys, 23 and 21, and 2 girls, 25 and 19. My wife has been pleading with them to get me to agree to halt the divorce proceedings in favor of counseling. After I told my children that I had no interest wasting any more of my life with that woman, they have all essentially backed off, except for my oldest, Christy. She's very close to her mother and can't imagine life where her parents aren't married. Christy tells me that her mother realizes her mistake and will do whatever it takes to make things right. She says that I owed it to the family to work things out. I refused and told her that it wasn't her place to make those kind of demands. Since then, the only time Christy talks to me is when she's sobbing and asking me to not destroy the family. I understand that this is hard for her and offered to pay for therapy so she can cope, but she said there wouldn't be anything to cope with if I wasn't trying to divorce her mother. Since Christy is being too emotional to act within reason and refuse therapy, I have been resolved to limit contact until after the divorce. However, my other children are saying that Christy's behavior is getting worse, so am I the a-hole for taking a step away from my daughter for a while? Now, I'll be honest, it sounds like he's being a bit of an a-hole despite being cheated on. She's a stay-at-home mother. I mean, if she chose to be one, okay, yeah, that's another thing. But if he made her be one through the agreement of what their relationship would be, then yeah, buddy, you kind of owe something to her. I mean that among any sort of situation. If you become the one who stays at home the entire time because they wanted it as well, then if they're gonna dump your butt, you deserve some compensation for it. That's just my opinion, though. Happy to be told otherwise. But what do you think about Christy? You think she's right to be guilt-tripping the dad like this? She's close with her mother. Maybe Mum's sort of planted some seeds into her brain that she should try and get them back together. I mean that, or she genuinely is upset at her dad. He's kind of just dismantling this family dynamic that she thought for years was totally secure. I mean, if anything, she should be more upset at Mum for shattering things, right? Why isn't she upset at Mum more? Daddy OP makes an update on some things first. 1, clearly my "she will effectively be homeless" comment was misinterpreted, so let me set the record straight. Because my wife and I own the house together, so long as we sell the house and split the proceeds, she'll get something. 2, my wife didn't give up her career to raise my children. We could have hired a nanny, but she didn't want that, and she chose to be a stay-at-home mum for our children. Because of her family money, she was getting a monthly allowance from the estate. Plus, I paid for a housekeeper to make things easier on her. Well, that answers that whole thing. 3, once my wife reached 30, she started getting a monthly allowance from the family estate, and the prenup addressed that so I couldn't claim half. In exchange, she couldn't get alimony. 4, I didn't want my children to get involved in the divorce. My wife decided to do that, and even brought up the reason why as a form of a preemptive strike. I only talk about the divorce when someone else brings it up. which Christy wants to do all the time. 5. I am not abandoning my daughter. I am just lowering contact with her until the divorce is finalized because she's not letting up on trying to pressure me into taking her mother back and refuses to go to therapy that I will pay for. And 6. Also to the comments asking why my wife cheated, it's a little offensive. I don't know how that changes anything, or that I should care. However, the guy that she cheated on me with was younger. Looks like he couldn't be any older than 30. So take that information and do what you will. Shout out to the meat in this comment, really hammering down what the daughter is being here. To get to the rub of the issue, you aren't cutting your daughter out. You're simply not communicating with her because her mother has effectively aimed her at you like a spear. She did the one thing a parent should never do in the case of divorce, which is to weaponize the children. And now you're dealing with targeted emotional manipulation just because your soon-to-be ex is scared of actually having to work for a change. And you would be right to presume that the daughter was used like a weapon, totally manipulated from the favorite parent of hers. But as we find out in this update, that's not entirely the case. I just wanted to say that I was very grateful to all of your kind words and support in how to deal with my daughter. I decided to follow some of your advice and have a scheduled sit-down with her to explain that what goes on between her mother and I is not her fault, and that I simply can't ever go back to a woman who deceived me in such a big way. I told her that I tried to be as forgiving and empathetic as possible, but I will not ever tolerate people who lie with malicious and selfish intent and try to cut them out of my personal life as much as possible. I was very calm when I said this and tried to be as loving as I could to my child, but it didn't work. Christy ended up breaking down again, tried to get me to convince myself not to divorce her mother and just forgive her. I refused, and in the end went no contact with Christy for a little bit. I only spoke to her again 2 days before my other daughter's, Jane's, 20th, birthday through a text, asking her to not bring up the divorce since this was going to be the first time my wife and I would be in each other's presence since I filed. I sent the same text to her mother, and I didn't hear anything from either of them. On Jane's birthday, things were a little tense and awkward, but I thought it was going good until my wife decided to be passive-aggressive with a speech about how good it is to have family together during important events. Everyone saw through her stuff, and my son, Jack, hey, it's me, 23 male, called her out on it and said that she was selfish to bring this up on Jane's birthday. Christy started defending her mother, and Jane, understandably upset, revealed that the only reason Christy was on their mother's side of reconciliation was because she didn't want the fact that she not only knew about the affair already, but helped her mother cover it up. There was a big fight that wasn't going to get resolved right then and there. I ended up leaving and was even more heartbroken all over again. Not only did my wife betray me, but my own daughter too. I knew she was closer to her mother than me, and I was okay with that, but this? I don't know what I did to make my eldest daughter so disloyal to me, but I am now resolved to go full no contact with her until the divorce, and possibly for the rest of my life. Yeah, that kind of reveals why she was so adamant on this just being swept under the rug. She didn't feel like she was partly responsible for it like many children do in divorce cases. No, she felt guilty because she was responsible for it. It really brings to light the fact that you trying to be all calm about explaining yourself to her, and where else is it? And it is not her fault. That must have stung her. Also, we're gonna give just Mother of the Year awards to this woman who brings up a passive-aggressive rant in the middle of her own child's birthday. Like, wow, what a piece of work. I won't lie, it was suspicious about how this daughter could be manipulated when she was 25 years old. I mean, by then, you should have some sense of common sense to understand these situations, and when your mother is clearly just trying to get away with something with you. Won't really bother with any of these comments, because they're all really based on the original story and didn't really dive much into the revelation. So with that said, let's continue on. I'll give you a heads up, this story is a very long one. There's multiple stories that interconnect between these two people. The husband and wife actually both go on Reddit to ask for help. And what I want you to do, though, is as you read this, try to look at the subtext of each post. It starts out with the OP, the woman, finding out that her husband never actually loved her and was saying things like that she's just a piggy bank to him and such. But then it's also revealed on the husband's side that she's never given him any affection for ages. It's interesting, I'll say the least. So as we read on, you tell me, who do you think's in the wrong here? It all started a month ago when the OP found out that her husband of 10 years has never loved her. My whole world is crashing right now. I never thought that this could happen to me. Deeply in love with my husband, and I thought he loved me too. My husband Sam and I met after college at a book club. We fell in love and married a year later, right out of college. I honestly thought that my life was a dream come true. He was kind and silly, and he made me feel loved. I found out last week that my husband never loved me. I overheard Sam talking to his friend on FaceTime when he thought I couldn't hear. His friend was congratulating Sam on bagging me because I'm loaded. That's not true. Though I make a decent living and my parents recently had some success in their business abroad, I don't make nearly enough to be considered wealthy, perhaps upper middle class at best. It's not like I can quit my job tomorrow and be set for life. I'm a financial analyst and make $300K working 70 hours a week. Sam is a customer service advisor for a bank and makes $50K working 35 hours a week. Yes, I was in investment banking out of college. Sam has had his job for 4 months. He has a spotty work history due to not getting along with his bosses. Just remember that point, not getting along with people of authority and bosses in general. Sam then said that all his planning paid off and he'd live the easy life. His friend added that he couldn't imagine being married to me, waking up to my face. I've never been very attractive. I'm very skinny and have a thin face and a wide nose, but Sam made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. Sam just laughed and said, "It's easy when you have the mindset." Pretended I didn't hear and went back upstairs and just lied in bed. Been sleeping on the couch with the excuse of working late and not disturbing him. Every time I've woken up in our bed with him cuddling me, I don't feel loved. I feel used. I don't know what to do. Now, the top comment of this story implies to just lawyer up, dump his ass, the classic Reddit advice. But the OP informs that she is lucky, however, she only has 10 years. 15 if she's lucky to continue working due to her health issues. But hey, another reason to get rid of that leecher. She goes on further in some other comments to explain that she has a serious medical conditions that cost a lot of money, partially exacerbated by her work life. She used to work 80 to 100-hour work weeks. Plus, she had been paying off her husband's student loans of $80,000 as well as the mortgage. They don't have student loans because they, herself, earned a scholarship. And here's something that I'm sure will get everyone on the guy's side in this. Yep, no doubt about it. I do most of the work to keep our home and life functioning. I do all the cooking and laundry, for example. We do pay for a cleaner who comes in once a week. Yep, the person who's working 70 hours and earning the most money is the one doing the cleaning and the cooking. I'm sure I plead that he is doing something. I mean, come on, when you bag someone who has all the money in the relationship, you gotta make your worth. You gotta give yourself a reason. No, you gotta give them a reason to not just get rid of you. I am aware that I am unattractive. I don't expect my husband or anyone to be intimately attracted to me. I just wish my husband actually loved me or at least cared about my other attributes. If he said that I was kind or clever or giving or genuine or intelligent or anything at all, I would be happy. To find out that the only reason he is with me isn't anything about me is crushing. My salary is not me. It's not even status. I could lose my job in an instant. There were no attributes about me. He is with me solely for my money. At the very least, he could have been in a relationship with someone who understands that was the relationship he sought. Instead, I love someone who never loved me back. Now we're going to move on to the husband's post, which apparently only got removed 1 day after being posted, so that's interesting. But just reflect on what she said in this comment, where she's basically just degrading herself as a valuable partner. Because as you'll read on later on, you'll notice it's a pattern about her, almost as if a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. So we move on to the husband story. My wife works a lot. Sometimes she even works literally 100 hours a week, but only when they have a deal or something. This past week, she's been going to the office at 6 a.m. before I wake up and coming home at 1 a.m. after I've fallen asleep. She now sleeps on the couch because she said she didn't want to disturb me while I sleep, which she never did before. Like, she's not affectionate anymore. She used to kiss me and hug me a lot, but since last Tuesday, she hasn't touched me. I try to kiss her, but she turns her head. She used to text me all the time at work, but now it's just one-word answers. She didn't meal prep this weekend, but I thought it was because she was sick. I checked our bank accounts, and she's only spent money on lunch and in a few days. Her iPhone says she's been on her phone a lot yesterday and the day before. I texted her coworker, and he said they don't have a deal coming up, but he did say that she was at the office all day. She never acted like this before. Is she cheating on me? So we should understand that at this point in time, neither had any idea that the other person was already on Reddit asking for help. And it is interesting, isn't it? Based on the first story, why would he be so surprised? Or somewhat, would he at least have some inkling as to why she's being so distant towards him? Because I'm assuming you're perceiving the husband here to be a complete a-hole. Leaving her to do meal prep, leaving her to do most of the cleaning and such. Though at least in the meal prep he does mention that he's offered, but the wife is the better cook. I can make a decent pasta or follow a recipe. She's good at spices and actually making things taste delicious, so I usually cut the vegetables or do whatever, and I clean up after. So yeah, again, I mean, achieving just the standard requirement of living in a house, but you know. This following exchange, though, is apparently very relevant. So someone commented, "You've been tracking her location, her phone, her laptop, her bank account, moving in her sleep when you know she doesn't want to sleep next to you, and so much more. You're a piece of Schmidt husband, overly possessive and driving your wife away. She's not cheating, but you are the problem. Go to therapy and leave your poor wife alone before you end up divorced from your stalker possessiveness." And the OP responded, "You make it sound freaking weird. I just want to know if she's cheating on me." Because it is weird, my man. I mean, when I was reading it out, I was already like, what? Tracking her phone usage? I mean, let's be fair here. It's one thing to suspect someone's cheating, but this just sounds like someone's just really prioritizing the office and just doesn't want to be around you. Usually when someone's cheating, they try to ham up their affection to you more to try and disguise what they're doing. Eventually, someone connects the dots and actually linked the post to the man here about his possible wife's own post. Bond saying, "No, that ain't my wife. Somebody DM'd me the link finally. My wife knows she's attractive. We didn't meet at any book club. I just hit her up at a couple places in college, and I definitely don't remember any conversation like that with any of my friends. Plus, the girl in that link had really low self-esteem. Now, edit, she was a TA for a class I had freshman year. That's how we met. She wasn't my TA, though. I went to her sessions because she was a good teacher." Which leaves you confused, right? Okay, these are just two separate, coincidental stories interlocking with each other. Well, we come to the update on the woman's side, where it becomes even more coincidental the issues these separate people are facing. Almost like he was completely lying in those comments. On to the update. Last night I came home late and my husband was waiting for me. He had been blowing up my phone for the entire day, spamming me with accusing but not untrue messages. The conversation did not go well. He accused me of avoiding him, which was true. I just couldn't look at him. I used work as an excuse. He said I was withholding affection from him. He also accused me of being unfaithful to him, which was never true. I have a new coworker who just started approximately 2 weeks ago, and Sam was convinced I was having an affair with them. I told him I didn't even know that coworker. How could I have an affair? I finally told him about what I overheard and how hurt I was. His response was to deny ever having that conversation and deny ever saying anything. He told me I probably misheard something or hallucinated due to stress. I received several very helpful messages about a post my husband might have made, though some of the details don't match up. Most of it do. Our salaries, the time we've been married, the couch thing. And I asked him if he wrote the Reddit post. He told me he doesn't do Reddit, but didn't outright deny making the post and asked me what I was going to do on my phone all day for the past few days, which was reading all your messages on this throwaway. I told him that, and he looked incredibly upset. I told him that what he did really hurt me, and he still insisted it never happened. I asked him if he ever loved me, and he said, "Don't be stupid. Of course I do. You're the one cheating on me." I told him I never cheated on him. It felt like the conversation was going in circles. I brought up the possibility of a postnup, and he scoffed and said he didn't want a divorce. If I tried to divorce him, he had the right to a lot of alimony. That part is true. Our state has strong alimony rights for spouses with salary differences. He only had his job for a few months, and it's the highest paying one he has had. He said, "Who's gonna take care of you when you're sick if you try to divorce me?" Picking up the gaslighting behavior here? Notice how he says he doesn't do Reddit, but didn't deny the post. So, clearly you still made the post then, didn't ya? Then, what's worse is using her own genuine sickness against her as some sort of bargaining option as to why she can't leave him. But it gets worse. He reveals the true circumstances of them meeting each other. It wasn't a coincidence. I asked him if he ever lied to me or hid things from me, and eventually he admitted that the way we met wasn't an accident. He knew who I was and that I would be there and pretended to stumble into me as an excuse to make conversation. I demanded counseling as a first step, and to my surprise, he agreed. At that point, I was getting a splitting headache. Not a migraine, which I also get often. I went to bed, and he gave me a glass of water and medicine, and we just didn't bring it up. I took today off work because I feel burnt out. I don't feel like anything is resolved. Now, I doubt myself and everything I heard. If I truly didn't hear that, then I blew up my marriage for nothing. If he did say that and he's capable of lying for 10 years, then why would I stay with him? At least we're getting marriage counseling and therapy for myself. Now, you may defend him being like, well, hang on. There's a lot of situations where you're gonna sort of pre-plan your cute meet. You know, you're a bit shy and nervous yourself. You wanna find some natural excuse to bump into each other. Okay, but we find out in the next update that there was a lot more to it. Now, if you consider the man's reasoning for this to be justified in the sake of his own upbringing and genuine flaws of a human being, sure, I'll leave that up to you. The next update was deleted, but it was titled, "My husband doesn't love me, my boss is threatening to fire me, and I got a citation from a police officer for sleeping in my car." So overall, it's been a rather fun experience today. We've had a few short but devastating conversations since then. Based on Reddit advice, I tried to get evidence that he was with me for my money. After my husband reluctantly admitted that we didn't meet on accident, I pushed and found out that the reason he pursued me is that I'm stable and I would do everything for him and never leave him. His birth mother left when he was young, leaving his family very poor until his grandfather died. I feel sorry for him and understand why he did this, but there's a small, selfish part of me that wonders why he chose me for this life. I thought I recorded him, but nothing shows up in my phone. It doesn't matter since we are in all-party consent state. Sometimes I wonder if I was blind. Sam is far more attractive than me, though my own preference tends to lie in the unconventional. I should have realized he is not attracted to me and that it was a one-sided love. I am not beautiful compared to other women, and when I try to wear makeup or fashionable clothes, I can tell he is not impressed. I thought it was because he liked me better, natural. My mother used to say a pig wearing makeup is uglier than a pig. I understand that now. That's partially the reason I could not stand pretending everything was alright. My love language is touch. I constantly liked to hug him or hold his hand or stroke his back or pet his hair. Knowing that he only tolerates my touch horrifies me. I don't want to be the source of someone's discomfort. I am also ashamed of being so vulnerable, knowing that he hates who I am and the way I look, knowing that he has seen me in my most vulnerable moments. I don't want to be a burden. After one night where I locked myself in the bathroom and slept in the bathtub, he hasn't been moving me from the couch. The reason he moved me is to pretend our life hadn't changed rather than any real concern for me. That's why he complained about me withholding affection. I went back to work and continued the routine I had done for a few weeks, working as much as possible until I had to go home. I cried a lot at work. I passed out at work one day, and when I woke up, my boss told me to go home. He was angry. I tried to drive home, but I still felt woozy, so I parked in a car and fell asleep. I was awoken by a police officer who gave me a warning for sleeping in a car. Apparently, that's a red flag for DUIs. I drove home, and Sam was furious. He somehow had known that I was sent home early. He demanded to know who I was with, told him the truth. Sam has been sweet to me since. He hasn't taken off work and he only does about an hour of real work a day, which strangely makes me envious of my own husband. Sam has been making sure I rest, making all our meals, and doing the chores. My work has demanded that I take off at least 2 more weeks of sick leave since my episode at the office. However, they are also simultaneously making me do work, and implied that my performance bonus will be impacted by my stunt. If I divorce my husband, the consequences will be beyond me losing the love of my life. My parents will cut me off from our family. They will not let me see my grandparents ever, who are in very delicate health. My grandparents raised me as a child when I was sent back to live with them in our home country. My family would not be surprised if Sam divorces me. My parents even told me at our wedding that he will leave me and that I should have married the man they arranged who wanted me for my citizenship. I will not have any support. Yeah, so things are just getting worse and worse, but also somewhat better. I mean, what's this with Sam suddenly being so affectionate and caring? Complete swing in the other direction, isn't it? Well, there's a reason for that, as I might have mentioned earlier in the video, and something you'd think if you genuinely want to be with someone, you'd let them know about these faults of yours beforehand so they are prepared for this sort of experience. But yeah, after OP posts in a Reddit that's all about seeking help for those who are dealing with bipolar disorder partners, I don't have bipolar disorder and I hope you all can help me. I tried another subreddit, but further research indicated that this subreddit would be more helpful, as I genuinely love and care about my husband. We have been married for 10 years. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and ROCD 2 years ago, but never told me. My husband does not love me, though he says he does. He is with me for stability he lacked as a child. Obviously, I feel that we both deserve to be with someone who we love. We need to get a divorce. However, he sees differently. He says that I am abandoning him, and I never loved him if I want a divorce. I do love him and care about him. I don't want to be condescending, but I don't know how to tell them that he will be happier when he divorces me and finds someone he loves. How do I make it clear that I want him to find someone he is in love with? All I want is his happiness. Now, when asked by another commenter if her husband said he was disgusted by her, the OP says, no, he has enough tact not to say that. Right now, he'll say the sky is green if it meant not getting divorced. Whenever I try to wear makeup or nice clothes, he doesn't seem impressed and even a little bit disgusted. He tells me to wipe that off my face. The kindest thing people can say is that I take care of myself. I do try. I would say I'm a bit below average, the type of woman who you would see and not notice. My best feature is my clear skin, which was a lot of work and skincare. It's the way that his exes have been blonde bombshells and are nothing like myself. It's the way he laughed about me with his friend and the way he has never taken a photo of me that I haven't asked him to. There's not a single photo of me in his phone. You'll begin to notice that the OP is strangely sharp at digging at themselves. For me personally, I am suspicious if it might have been influencing the way she's been perceiving some of the things he's been saying or doing. However, it's this tantrum he portrays in this next story that, I mean, yeah, even if he's got some sort of issue that you can work on together, you don't deserve to be dealing with this man anymore. Hell, he's not even a man. He's clearly a child. Would I be the a-hole if I replaced someone's glass jar that she lent me without telling her? I bought a glass jar of homemade fruit preserve at a farmer's market. The seller, Mary, who's a 60-year-old female, was a nice older lady that I've bought from before. Because we know each other, she gives me a discount if I bring back the empty jar, since she saves money. She gave me a fancier glass jar than usual today because she ran out of the regular ones. I can't return the jar. I found an identical jar at Target and I plan to give her that. The reason I don't want to tell her is that she's very kind but inquisitive, and she'll ask why I didn't bring the original back, and she'll say that I didn't have to replace it, etc. I don't want her to worry. As to how a glass jar relates to her husband, well, she explains in the comments. It was destroyed. My husband threw it and it shattered. There's no way to put it back. He's a fan of fruit preserves, so I got a new flavor I thought he would like to try. He was upset that I got him a gift, so he threw it on the ground. He was apologetic, but there's no way to put it back together. We have been going through a very rough patch. Apparently, the gift was a reminder that no one will love him like I do. That was not my intention. I just thought he would like it. So where are your thoughts lying right now? Think this man's got bipolar issues that just clearly aren't worth saving. This woman's a victim of her own negativity and this clearly selfish partner, pretty much using her like a mother. That, honestly, I think is undeniable. He clearly has mummy issues that he's just projected onto her. But again, we should understand that this is coming from her perspective. And a recent update that was about a week ago reveals to us readers that she herself is on the autistic spectrum. Now, of course, I don't bring this up to assume that everything she says is some sort of dismissible thing because of her autism. Not at all. And the entire post, if anything, is really just showing to us that she is just burning out. But for people with autism, burning out is a lot more than just being exhausted. It's a genuine shutdown of being able to socially comprehend things. One thing to highlight is how she finished an assignment early and the boss gave me a lot more work because you need it, and their mind is blowing up trying to figure out if that was just a friendly comment or a negative, assertion towards her skill and abilities. Honestly, sounds more like anxiety, but let's avoid trying to be armchair psychologists. And what's worse is the latest post is about her seeking her therapy and going to therapy. And what does the title say? I don't feel like I deserve anything. My therapist says that's a good thing. Who is your therapist? But let's read on. Maybe there's some legitimate wording of it that makes sense. I had my first therapy session ever on Saturday, a weekend online therapist who is licensed. When she asked what issues I want to resolve, one problem I told her was that I felt like I didn't deserve anything in life. My therapist said that it wasn't an issue, but a blessing since I can practice gratefulness. I am grateful for the smallest things, but intellectually, I feel as though I should not be grateful for them. I feel like a doormat in my personal and professional life. I feel like I'm not worth anything. That's good. My work demands extremely long hours. I remember the worst week I ever had in my career was 104 hours of work. I'm exhausted, but my boss relies on me and me alone, even though there are other members of the team. He says I'm his biggest asset, and I am grateful for being recognized. Yet, others have gotten promotions off the team and into more relaxed roles. I have not. I've worked here for years, and I've only taken 11 days off for vacation the entire time. Not because I want to work, but because I'm needed. I had invasive wisdom teeth surgery on Thursday, and I got both an infection and dry socket over the weekend. We had a deal going through, and I went to work yesterday in pain with a fever because my boss demanded that I be there. I worked until midnight and didn't eat anything since I was in so much pain. I was supposed to Uber back to my hotel. My husband and I are discussing divorce, but I pressed the wrong destination and went back to our house instead. I fell asleep in my front yard when my husband found me. Luckily, nothing happened to me since I live in a relatively safe area. My husband is thrilled I came home. He pleaded with me to cancel the rest of the hotel stay, and I caved in. I feel selfish for divorcing him, and I feel selfish for staying. I don't want to be like my father, using money to force someone to stay with them. I got my dry sockets treated. I needed someone to help me irrigate the holes since doing it myself caused the infection, but I don't know who to ask. No friends or family live nearby. I just haven't been eating because I don't want to get another infection. Looking at this post, I feel so much self-loathing. It's filled with aggrandizing self-pity. The price of my job is the loss of a personal life. Many people would be happy to be in my position, making as much money as I do. Many people would be thrilled to live my life and have a home to come to and food in their stomachs. There's no reason for me to be unhappy, yet I am, and I know I should feel entitled to some things. But if my therapist says not being expectant is a good thing, then what is my problem? What is wrong with me? Now, the top comment here does try to helpfully, more accurately define what the therapist was trying to say. I think your therapist means it's easier to be grateful if you don't feel entitled to things. However, it sounds like you have the opposite problem in that you have such trouble with that you feel you don't deserve even basic things like self-care or happiness or satisfaction with your life. It sounds to me like you are lacking those things. I would try to explain that to your therapist because either they misunderstood what you meant or willfully misinterpreted it. Yeah, a bit of a downer of a post. And these comments do highlight some of the worst things of it. I hate all the people in her life. Her husband and her boss mostly, just sucking this poor woman dry like emotional and financial vampires. Nobody is giving her any support. She is seeking love and validation, but all she is getting is abuse. However, Free Fortuna here does offer some insightful counterpoints to all this. This is probably going to be a wildly unpopular take, but I'm not convinced that her husband doesn't love her. at least in some way. I read through her profile and comments. She states in multiple places that she's completely willing to basically pay for her husband to live as he wants after the divorce, that she just wants him to be happy and to find someone he can actually love. And he won't. He insists that he wants to be with her. I mean, it's perfectly possible that he's screwing with her, but why would he do that at this point? He could have the money and be with someone he's attracted to. She even said that they're in like a forever alimony state. He has no reason to stay with her just for financial stability. He could basically have that anyway. So I just don't understand what he'd have to gain by staying married at this point. It's possible that he wasn't attracted to her and pursued her for money and stability, but it's also possible that after 10 years together, he loves her and can't imagine his life without her, especially if he has abandonment issues. The situation is sad, no matter what the truth is. I just don't see it as clear-cut abuse like everyone else seems to. And look, I can see where they're coming from. I mean, I would be skeptical on it because some of these opinions are us projecting the idea of what he is, and not just relying on what the information in front of us is saying. Because, yeah, you can say that, is he truly being an abuser in this situation? If after 10 years with someone that he's grown to be very fond of and really appreciate, they suddenly say that, I don't want to be with you, you don't make me feel loved anymore, etc. You know, physical touch likely wasn't his love language at all. It was acts of service or gifts, things. And to him, he felt things were perfectly fine as they are. And then suddenly told that it was all a waste of time to her. I mean, yeah, I think it makes sense that this person who's also pursued relationships because of abandonment issues, that they're going to kind of snap. And look, yes, he smashed the glass jar, but he hasn't done any harm to you. If anything, it sounds like he's been trying to make more of an effort to compensate for his, lack of physical touch. Now, I'm not saying that that justifies everything that he's done and he should be completely forgiven. I think Johnny Depp was great to be considered innocent in most of the stuff that was accused about him, but he was still rather an abusive partner in some degree, just like this man is clearly. Like another comment does jump on board to the idea with some further thoughts. I agree with this. I feel like he agreed to marriage counseling and is acting the way he does because he does love her. To be fair, did originally deny wanting to do counseling, so that's a bit of a shaky argument. Some people feel love is a feeling like butterflies. Some people feel love is a choice. The truth is probably somewhere in between. I don't think he would be fighting so hard to stay with her, though, if he was as repulsed as she believes he is. I wonder if there is some confirmation bias or other cognitive distortion at play here. To me, it would explain how she perceived the conversation her husband had, and how she perceived the conversation she had with her therapist. Or they could both be extremely schmetty people. I'm glad they're doing couples because I don't agree this marriage is over yet. There seems to be love on both sides. How it started can be overcome, if they both want to overcome it. This is another point. To me, it sounds like she's experiencing the result of his rage that he can't love her, even though he knows she loves him exactly how he craves. Because yeah, let's think about that point, for some people love is a choice. It's not so much a giddy thing you always feel, but just like I want that companionship and I have to achieve that through love. I'd imagine it must be extremely torturous as a person to have become so secure with someone over the last 10 years and they suddenly require this of you that you genuinely can't give as much as you wish you could. But even in that context, that just justifies why you shouldn't deserve to be with them. So ultimately, look, yeah, I see that there's a chance for them to work things out, but I feel like they shouldn't. I feel like it should end here. Especially how it all started. I mean, yeah, he's finally opened himself up more to try and be there for her more, but he wasn't beforehand. It shouldn't require you to threaten with divorce for someone to actually try in a relationship, and that alone, I think, is enough for you to be justified in leaving him. But that's my overall thoughts on this entire tragedy this woman's experiencing. Let me know what you think yourself. It's a big story, there's a lot of moving parts, so, please don't blame me if I've missed some points. Bring them up, actually. There's a lot of points here that I feel like I've missed with this entire great wall of story. Anyway, that'll end today's video. Thank you as always for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and all the blah 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 blahs. Drink some water. It's healthy for you. Yum 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 glub. Let me know your thoughts down below and we'll see you for the next one. Toodaloo!